You're listening to Bluebird Broadcast. I'm your host, creator, and producer of the show, Milena Karpukhina, and you're listening to our sub-series, Tell Me About It, where we have interview-esque chats with artists we admire. Today on the show, we have Maya Shoham and Max Katana, who recently wrote, produced, and brought into the world the masterpiece that is Midnight Cannoli. Thanks for coming on the show, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, happy to be here.
It's a pleasure. How about we just run down a little bit who you are as people, who you are as artists, where you're calling in from, because I'm sure that's interesting to our listeners. We're all over the world.
Jump in, Shoham.
I'm Maya Shoham. I'm talking to you from my apartment in the Upper West Side. I'm originally from Israel. I moved to New York 3 years ago to pursue acting. I've been doing acting in Israel. I've had to stop when I was in the military for 2 years. But literally 2 weeks after my mandatory military service, found myself in New York. And yeah, I met Max in Atlantic Acting School, where we just worked on a bunch of projects in school, and then we were like, let's do something outside of school. And that's when this came to life.
Atlantic Acting School seems to be a breeding ground of many a project, much like our own theatre company, Bluebird Theatre Company. So we're fellow alums.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. So that means you came to New York when you were about, 20? Because you had to go into the military at 18.
Yeah. My 21st birthday was the day COVID started.
Oh, wow. So you did a lot of your training online.
Yeah. So this is familiar territory for us.
Yeah, it's a whole new world. And how about you, Max?
Yeah, so my name, Max Katana, Maximilian Katana, if we take it to my real birth name.
Government name?
Yeah, basically. Who I am? That's a great question. I'm a food lover. I'm an Aussie-born beach boy. I love my family. I love my friends. I feel like at this current moment, I consider myself a bit of a traveler of sorts. I'm bouncing around a whole lot. I feel very much at home here in New York, which is where I'm zooming in from. So I'm from Bushwick, Brooklyn, from my apartment here. And so I'm an actor, first and foremost. That's sort of my craft. And have since, put on some other hats to put together this film with the lovely Maya right here. Who, yes, as she mentioned, we connected in Atlantic and sort of developed the seeds for this story from that breeding ground.
Fabulous. Whereabouts in Australia are you from?
I'm from Sydney.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
I grew up in Melbourne, so...
No, what?
Yeah, 10 years. Or 11.
Wow. Oh, didn't know that. There you go.
And my mom is Australian. My mom is Australian too, so we have like a whole triple connection here with Australia. There you go.
Goddamn Aussies. They're
Aussie.
They're bleeding into everything. God help us.
So, you two met in Atlantic and decided that you have similar a mission and combined forces to make Naughty Cow Productions, which is through which Midnight Cannoli was produced. You say on your website, because we do our research around here, that you're making films that stand as question marks rather than answers. And I love that, first of all. And second of all, tell us more.
Well, yeah, I think both Max and I, all the films that we both bonded over and the pieces of art that we've seen that we bonded over was always stuff that just challenged what you think of what you see. Mm-hmm. I know that I don't like when a movie is feeding me with a spoon what I'm seeing. I like to have my own opinion and think what I'm gathering from what I'm experiencing. So yeah, we wanted to do the same with our film. And I think you tell us, but I think Midnight Cannoli does it where like you're wondering what is happening for the entire time.
I would agree.
I feel like that's a fun state to be in.
Definitely fulfilled your mission. So you've got Midnight Cannoli in your Naughty Cow arsenal. You've got a few more.
Under the production company, this is our first.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The first of many, I hope.
Yeah. Knock on wood.
Yeah, no, we've got some projects coming up at the current moment, a series that we're developing, which I won't touch too much on just because it's very sort of in the works, so to speak, and, we're still operating under...
for now.
It's still operating over a very brief, working title of Project 23.
Sure.
But in a different medium, separate to short film, we're going to look at exploring creating films for social media, so TikTok, Instagram, where young audiences are today. But yeah, so the evolution of Naughty Cow for the future is sort of unfolding at the current moment, always transforming, and kind of transforming as artists, and where we're located is transforming, which I find is interesting in this day and age. Like with Zoom has taught us anything. You can kind of make anything from anywhere. So yeah,
I know
that's what's in the works.
Good stuff. Let's hone in on your recent endeavor, Midnight Cannoli. There's obviously the synopsis is out there. Anyone who's interested can check that out on IMDb.
Yeah.
But give us your own personal take on what we can take away from it. Because I personally had to watch it 3 times to get the 3 perspectives of the characters. So we've got Maya as Lily, we've got Max as Leo, and we've got your co-star Ramsden Medeiros as Camille. And each of them go through their own inner, outer turmoil with temptation. But how do you want people, or really what do you want people to get from this experience? From this 10-minute feast for the senses?
I think, first of all, I want audiences to end up wanting a cannoli, like craving something. I think films that make you like that, when you're done from this 10 minutes, you're like, I'm craving something. I think that's the take that I would love if people take from it, being a cannoli, or just thinking of like something that you're desiring, and are you going to pursue it, or are you not? Maybe take a look back at the things that you've desired in the past. And
yeah, it's funny. It's like I'm reminded of films that I love, and just moments in films, like, you know, whether it be the Big Kahuna Burger in Pulp Fiction, you know, just if people come away from this film and all they can take is like, oh damn, I'm like craving cheesecake or a cannoli or whatever dessert or something, desiring anything for that matter. I feel like the film's achieved what it set out to achieve.
What's your cannoli today?
Ooh.
It's a good question.
It is ever changing.
And you'll have to answer too, though. Wow. I think my cannoli today is I woke up extra early and started baking. I also bake. And I haven't baked in my New York apartment in a really long time. So I was like, I'm craving...
If you have an oven, that's already a feat.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
sure.
So I think that's my craving today. Yeah, to like bake and do stuff with my hand. That's my cannoli.
Awesome.
I'm like looking outside right now, and I see this beautiful blue sky, and having been what I feel like is like a bear in the winter, my like cannoli right now is just like getting some sun on this very pale body and just like reawakening some of my pores. So like for me, my cannoli today is like the sunshine. Beautiful day.
Bask in it. I wish only that for you.
What about you?
My cannoli.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to brag a little bit. And at my ripe age of somewhere in my mid-20s, I recently got my driver's license finally. So I'm just looking forward to being the fully fledged woman that I am and driving into that cannoli tunnel.
Yes. Yes. I love that.
Stoked for you.
That's the thing too. Moving out of New York, I was like, oh my god, people actually have to drive elsewhere. There's not just a subway that's, you know, every couple of minutes to take you wherever. Yeah, so as for short film producing, because you were both producers, you took the role of producers in this feat. What was that like? Because not only were you behind the scenes and really putting the puzzle pieces together, but also you were in front of the camera and on the pages, because you were writers as well. Just multifaceted, triple, quadruple.
We're
threats.
so talented. We're just.
It's. We can't disagree. How do you even begin something like this? Because I'm sure there are so many people out there that are like, oh, I have this great idea. You know, I have this vision for a story that I'd like to tell. How do you even take the first step? And what is that first step? Or at least what was it for Midnight Cannoli?
Wow, yeah. I think that first step was more of a, I mean, it sounds cliched, like a falling off. And then we soon realized pretty quick what we had gotten ourselves into. And I don't think Maya and I were prepared for that. We originally planned to do this. Oh my, it can be daunting. And I feel like, I don't know, it's like when you don't want to half-ass things. And so Maya and I are of a similar kind in that respect, and we didn't want to half-ass this. And so when we decided to make this film, when we sort of realized the sort of work that would be required to write it, to produce it, to act in it, and then be a part of it from start to finish. We'd been a part of other film productions before, but I don't think in a capacity, and look, I'll speak for myself, but I think it also applies to Maya here. We truly didn't know the extent of what was required until, we did really start to sink in. But then look, once the train was rolling, we were kind of like, we built momentum. And there was like serious encouragement in sort of how we were able to, in those initial stages, as you mentioned, just be like, okay, we've got a draft, pat ourselves on the back. Now what do we do? Okay, second draft. All right, cool. And like, I don't think in those stages when we were drafting the script that I was really considering like, okay, but we need to remember that like way down the future, we need a composer to do this. It was really kind of like, what can we control now? And perhaps after doing this, maybe it is better to also have those future considerations, maybe just dwelling in the background. But for us, it was kind of like what's just like focus on one thing at a time. Whether that be a second draft, like let's just get a second draft done, or do we know a director that will jump on board? It's just one step at a time.
Interesting. You're not going to be thinking about color grading when you're still composing the dialogue that's going on. So very interesting take, because I know it is such a big thing, isn't it, at the end of the day? But it all begins with small steps, and you just have to get from one to the other.
And I think both Max and I have that in common. We're both very like straight to the point people. And I don't know, in the military we picked up like problem solving. There's a problem, solve it, move on, one step at a time. Yeah, like we're all gathering. And I think, it all started with, we had this idea. We were like, okay, we want it to be in a restaurant. We want it to be around a cannoli. We want it to be a love triangle, but that's ambiguous. Let's take it from there. So we were like, okay, so we need a restaurant. Let me find a restaurant. Okay, we need a director. Let's find a director. It's kind of every step. And I think probably like for the next project that we'll do, we'll probably want to start thinking of like also the big picture stuff. But I think because this was a first time, I think it also had its perks of kind of thinking and giving each step the full attention before moving on to the next one.
Bird's eye view, and then honing in on each little detail.
Yeah.
And in the end, you did find a director, that of Ian Arick. And how did you find that connection?
Yet another Atlantic alum.
Ah, there we go.
Yes.
So you are, the trope is you look to your left, you look to your right, and these are the people you'll be working with. Would you look at that?
It's really, it does hold up.
A director of photography? How do you go about finding one of those? Acquiring one of those?
Yeah.
If you don't already have one in your
If only Craigslist.
inventory.
No, I'm kidding. I think another thing about our production company, again, which is very in the beginning, but something that we put as a target for ourselves, is that we want to work with people that we think are talented and cool and fun. We like to speak in metaphors sometimes, Max even more so than me, but like we kind of found this perfect metaphor for ourselves where we want this production company to kind of be like a dinner party. Like we're the hosts and we want to invite people and cook for people and like share stuff with people. And so obviously the people that we want to invite, we want them to be cool and fun and artistic and creative. And most of the people who worked on this in the first step were friends. We're friends or friends of friends. Yoav, who's the director of photography, we went to high school together. We talked in Israel about how we want to make films in New York one day, and then it fucking happened. So yeah.
So it did turn into a bit of a potluck in that way.
Yes.
That everybody's vote brings a bit of, I was going to say a bit of the pie, but that doesn't really make sense.
But bringing something to the
table.
yeah. Bring something to the table.
I think that's a brilliant metaphor. Like it's like one big old creative potluck, and if you really just spend like 30 minutes and sit down and ask yourself, oh, who do I know? Like, let me think about that. Like the community that I feel like often, at least I have this feeling. I'm like, damn, if only I knew like so-and-so producers and directors, then I could get the things I wanted to make made. And I feel like that is just a form of like self-delusion, because we found that, like, oh my God, we do know a terrific director, and we do know an incredible DOP, and they happen to know also other people, and you all of a sudden start having this little creative potluck of people that have something to bring and offer to the table. And I feel like New York's a unique place, at least in my experience of it. You know, I've heard this somewhere, or maybe somebody telling me, that no one comes to New York to have a quiet life. You know, everyone in New York is really trying to be the best at what they do. And so really, if you're in New York and you know anyone, chances are that...
You know everyone.
Yeah, or at least hardworking.
Right.
And so we were able to find those people easier than I imagined we would.
Yeah, you're in a bit of a melting pot, luckily.
Yeah.
So when you actually get on set, things tend to go slowly if you're simply an actor, right? You're waiting for your turn on set, you're waiting for your turn in front of the camera, you're repeating your lines. Given that you had your hands in every little bit of the process, how do you focus on your acting when you're in front of the camera, when you have every little detail of what goes into making this short film in the back of your mind? If only it was that simple, of just turning those little switches off.
Yes, taking off those producer hats and writer's hat. Man, I don't know.
Was it just a matter of staying in the moment and being like, look, I'm here now, breathe, I am now Lily, I am now Leo, I am now Camille, and this is what this person is doing? Because the practical aesthetics method, in a way, lends to that. Of you're just going for your action in that moment and you're playing off of what's in front of you.
Yeah, I mean, definitely with the acting as it relates to the method that we're all trained in, you can kind of just like tap back into the vein of what you're doing pretty quickly. That's for sure. But like, I remember my coverage on day 2, it was just before our quote unquote lunch, which was really like, our lunch was at like 1 a.m. It was a night shoot, so late. And I remember as soon as they called cut, it was like, okay, shit, where's the Caesar salad? Because we didn't have craft services, so we were craft services. And it was like, okay, we're producers now, like, I need to get the pasta out of the fridge and we need to start plating up so people can eat, you know, as opposed to like, let me stay in my, the intention of my character or whatever that is. So there was a lot of switching hats. Would I do it again? Yes, but I feel like before I commit to that, I've got to be pretty sure of what I'm getting myself into, because it's difficult. It's difficult. Yeah. It's I find, for me at least, like, acting is a very physical sort of sensorial experience, and producing is very cerebral. It's very heady. So going between those two can sometimes throw you in a bit of a spin. You're
juggling your brain hemispheres. It's
truly.
But there was a lot of trust. There was just a lot of trust, I think. I think it could all have happened because there was trust. And I know that, like, if there was a scene with me and Ramsden, then I knew Max would, like, take care of the rest. And I hope vice versa. And when we were on camera together, I think it's just, we were like, okay, the only person right now is you. Let's act. Because all of this, like, mess that we had to go through was so we can act. Because at the end of the day, like, this is my passion. I know it's yours too. All of this is to be able to act. So, like, the moment that Ian yelled action, like, it was Max and I.
Mm-hmm. And I think that really shone through the screen.
Thank you.
That was a really interesting moment. I remember maybe it was just like between different setups that like Maya and I had a quick conversation. Maybe we talked about a character or like how the scene was. And I was like, also, like, we've spent months trying to get to this point. This feels great. Me and you now just acting together. Like, this was the thing that we wanted to like do at the very beginning. And we would kind of like laugh to each other being like, oh shit, we've spent months and now this is like our, hour to do our thing. And we kind of just like hooked in. So that was a fun moment.
Yeah.
I bet that was very satisfying to just look around and be like, oh, this is what it was all
about.
For.
Yeah.
How many days total did you end up spending at the restaurant?
2 days.
2?
2 long nights, yeah.
Wow, that's commendable.
Yeah, we worked hot and heavy, as they say.
I bet. Round the clock.
Oh, yeah. I think it was 6 p.m. to 4 a.m. I don't know if that's the proper hours
Right.
you're permitted to shoot films, but that's what we did. Don't sue us.
Yeah.
It's okay, the union's not listening.
The union's gonna come for us. I remember like I'd get in as well, like the commute was then an hour home. So it was like you went to bed at sunrise and you kind of, just as you got up, we had to wake back up and go, okay, we need to make sure the equipment's back on set. Because our call times as producers as well, like we're started the day. So it wasn't like, okay, we got 2 long days as actors. We've also got 2 long days as actor producers, and the requirements for those are different.
And so you've got it in the can, as they say, after these 2 days. And then what happens?
Here's yes, okay. Jesus Christ is all I'm gonna say, because I enjoyed pre-production. I loved the whole planning of it. I love the production
The
itself.
type A of it.
Yeah. I loved the production itself, of course. Then the post-production, I could not foresee how A, difficult it will be, and B, how long it will be. It's way longer than the pre-production and production combined. Multiplied by like 6, I think. Like it took a while. I don't know, maybe people that aren't that into film can't really comprehend, and I'm talking about myself too, like how much it does all fall on the color, the way that it looks, or on the sound mixing. Like, I feel like I always knew that sound mixing is important, but I couldn't understand just how important it is.
It's a world of its own.
It's a world of its own, and of course the editing, like we spent hours in the editing room with our incredible editor, Aya, who's also from Israel. But yeah, it just took a really long time, but it was, again, about finding people that we think are fun to work with and that can help really actually tie this whole thing up.
Because the concept, well, you really have to commend the people that are in the sound world, are in the editing and the cutting together of the footage, color grading and all the rest, because without it, I mean, you gotta be real. Some of the footage just ends up looking silly without all of that. Like, you look at some raw footage and the concept is not there whatsoever. The acting can be as beautiful and as talented as can be, and in the end, those things that really tie it together with a bow and make it a fully fledged production. So I would say kudos to your post-production team, because it was a fantastic experience to be able to watch their gorgeous work.
Yeah, and often they don't get the praise that they deserve, you know, because like we're watching like the quality of work that's currently, I mean, TV streaming nowadays, it's like they're full-fledged productions, you know, with millions and millions of dollars into them. The amount of sheer work that's put into it and the amount of people involved in that post-production process to make it look the way that it looks, and it to be polished in a way that people don't go like, oh, this sounds a little odd, or ooh, geez, what's up with that color? Like, people got like audiences have high standards nowadays, and a lot of it is owed to the post-production team. You know, they're great at what they do.
Definitely. I was trying to keep track of the people in your production team, and at the end the credits just kept going and going, and it's like, damn it, that really is what it is. And in the movie theater you don't necessarily see it, because a lot of people, you know, they get up and then they leave as soon as the first, you know, roll of credits goes. But in the end you had 22 or so people, and really we only see the 3 of you on screen. But behind, you have this full support system. You have to give them the credit they deserve, because without them, the film is but a
It's better nothing. It's better nothing. I was very fortunate. I went to an arts high school where the first 2 years we weren't allowed to. It's not that we weren't allowed, that we just didn't have any performances. All we could do for the first 2 years of acting school was to help the productions of the years above us, to do lighting design or set design or costume
It's a
design.
hazing of sorts.
I mean, it's a hazing of sorts, but it's like organized by the school. Like, they're not letting you act in front of people. And I remember at first being so pissed. I was like, but I want to be an actor. But I think you quickly realize, and I was so fortunate to have that lesson taught to me when I was 14, acting is just one more part of this. It's not at all the most important part or the biggest part. No, it's just the part that people remember the most. But if you're doing the best play ever, but it has no lighting, you can't see it. Everyone has a piece of this puzzle. And if they're not doing it the best they can, the film will not look good.
You just happened in this production to be holding like 17 of these pieces.
But luckily we found all the other people that make this puzzle the full picture.
Yeah.
It's also part of the reason why, at the end of the day, I love this industry, is because you get to work with so many different talented people who are really great at what they do, and you get to pull them together to serve one sort of vision. So that's super exciting for me. Because, you know, if this was all done in isolation, like if I filmed this whole thing in my room and cut it all together, did the sound and lighting, I mean, people do that, but that for me isn't rewarding. It's really getting to connect with other artists and have everyone else contribute in their own way to this like melting pot, which is, again, we're so thankful to be able to have worked with some incredible people.
Without being too indiscreet, the production budget was in the tens of thousands, if I'm correct, which is fair for a production of its size. And that was mainly sourced through crowdfunding, I imagine.
Yes.
For people that are curious about this sort of thing, when you do not have a film yet, but you have an idea, how do you really encourage people or inspire them to see the same thing that you do in this idea and support it enough to invest in it? Because I'm sure mum and dad are very supportive, but mum and dad alone aren't necessarily going to raise $15,000
They're not going to
to put on
bankroll
a
a
short
film.
film.
Yeah.
So are there any tips or tricks, you know, outside of just Facebook posts, maybe, that can boost a crowdfunding campaign?
My only recommendations is it would be, you got to be aware of like, okay, what is the scale of this film? What do we envision for ourselves? Because I feel like if you're not clear on that, you can't really get clear on what you're asking from other people to contribute to it. And look, this took months for me and Maya to figure out and develop and create a campaign that was very specific. And what we were asking for, we knew that it would cover everything. It would cover transportation, equipment, food, people, casting, all of it. I would say any word of advice would just be specific of the scale of the product, of the film. I don't want to call it a product.
It will be a final product.
It will be a final product. And I feel like when you do ask for the generosity of people, when you ask for generosity, I feel like be very clear on what it's going towards, so that people aren't giving their money away to an idea that isn't fully fleshed out yet. Whenever money's involved, I feel like we put a lot of consideration into what it was that we were actually asking for and making sure that was going to be allocated correctly, because it's, again, you can't take the generosity of others lightly, you know.
And to that, I'll add the second tip would be, if you're not passionate about it, no one else will. So like truly like be passionate and don't be afraid to show that you're passionate about it, because I know that I'm obsessed with others people's passions, even if they're not my own. So I think just being honest with your passion. And then the third I would say is we got help from people that I never thought we would get help from. Like, I got one of the donators was like someone that I met at the restaurant I work at one night, just helped us out. And I'm like, okay, cool.
That's great.
Another person is Baby John, who's the one who helped us with the cannolis.
I noticed the reference from the credits, but give us the context.
No, Baby John. He's an incredible man. He really is. He really is. We wouldn't have this film without Baby John. Huge shout out to
Baby John, aka Cannoli King.
The Cannoli King.
AKA
the Cannoli King of Little
That's
Italy.
Right.
And I've eaten my way through Little Italy, and I can attest. Best cannoli in New York City, Baby John.
Yes.
Not only that, but he was an incredible source of just generosity and energy. All the cannolis in this film are the incredible Baby John's cannolis. We had to find cannolis for this film because we couldn't afford to buy 15 cannolis that we had to have up our sleeve to be able to break and
Spoiler alert.
You mean to tell me that there's not just one cannoli in this film? There's not just one starring cannoli?
We'll let audience determine how many cannolis were eaten or not eaten or used
harmed
in the making
or
of this film.
ruined. Yes.
But basically, through much searching to no avail, we finally ended up at Baby John's place. And he sat us down and just very beautifully said, hey, look, I want to help young filmmakers, young artists, and I would love to help sponsor this film, to give as much as I can to put, whether it be the Cannoli's itself and some funding, and just in making sure that we can make this film.
Shout out Baby John.
And he's an icon.
And I remember with him when we
icon.
asked him, because all we wanted was Cannoli's, that's all. And he said, how much money do you need? And we're like, we're not asking for money, we're asking for Cannoli's. And I was like, no, but I want to help. How much money do you want? And we're okay, we'll let you decide how much. If you want to donate, that would be amazing. And now he's an associate producer. Come on. Baby John.
That's great. You never know. Know.
And you never know how much people are willing to actually help. I feel like I was constantly humbled by, people do want to help. And you'd be like, shit, I don't know, could you maybe help us out? And they're like, shut up, Baby John was like, shut up. Just what do you need to do this? Just shut up and take the money and get on with it. Stop being too humble, because you can be too humble to a point. When I say maybe humble's not the right word, but you got to back yourself. And if you're passionate, just back yourself and go for it.
You got to want your own success, because then other people will want it for you. And you can never underestimate. Even in the founding of our company, we've had so much unprecedented support. And it's amazing to see how many people want to be there and be a part of the realization of something that they see people are passionate about. So, yeah. There's no use in playing hard to get in your crowdfunding either, because where's that going to get you? Yeah. Are there any words of wisdom for first-time filmmakers that maybe want to embark on this daunting, perhaps, process of creating a short film?
I'll say the best advice I think I can give, because I realized that early on in the process, is it's a team sport. You cannot do it on your own. It's a community. You have to bring a community into this thing, and once you do, it's possible. So A, don't be afraid to ask for help, because people want to help, and B, acknowledge that it's everyone is bringing their own talent, so give space to that. And I'm not gonna go to the sound mixer and be like, no, this is how I think it should be.
In some cases, relinquishing control can be more productive.
Yeah, I'd echo that. That's spot on. It's a team sport. And then also, if I was to add anything in addition to that, it's just shut up and do it. It's never gonna be perfect. It's never gonna no part of this film was I ever it's perfect. Everything was shit, what if I just... And then it was either Maya or me just going to one another going, it is what it is right now, let's move on, let's push on. Because the work, perfectionism, it's not an achievable thing. Having a perfect product is not a perfect film, a perfect story. I don't think it exists. And so you just keep transforming it through its different stages to a point where at the end of the day, it is what it is. So that draft just reached a boiling pot where we're like, okay, shit, it's time to take this one off the stove. And now it's time to cast this thing, or whatever process it was. But it was just, it's never gonna be perfect. So don't let that stop the flow of it coming out and getting out into the world. Because
as you say, it is what it is. And if you watch the film, what it is fantastic. It's a work of art. And who was it that said perfection is the cockblock of creativity? I mean, no truer words have been told, because it's never going to be perfect, but what it is going to be is real, and what it is going to be is an experience, and a meaningful, touching one at that. I think that's really what we can hope for in this field, is just to have an impact.
100%.
Perfection isn't going to really change anything.
And I think we were talking about it in our final stages of the post-production. If we keep trying to make it more and more and more perfect, we'll never publish it. We'll never share it. And I think perfection is boring. Who wants perfect? Can you maybe spot a continuity mistakes? Maybe, but does it mean that it's gonna ruin your No, you're not. It's perfect. The editing is perfect.
It is perfect.
Disregard everything we said about perfection.
Having said this all, this is a perfect film. So
No,
But, you know, there's nothing to say otherwise. I mean, watching it, it is a perfect experience.
Aw.
But that's because of all the imperfections that make it.
Because it's not perfect. And by the way, I think it's perfect for what it is now. And maybe in 5 years, we'll look back and be like, what was that? And maybe
In 5 years, you'd have another film to worry about.
In 5 years, we will have evolved and we have created more films and have created more opinions on art. You know what I mean? Like, I think if in 10 years we're still like, this is the perfect thing we could have ever done.
I'm not gonna lie, like if in a year's time I look back and go, wow, that was my golden goose. That's my final, I will be very upset. Only because I feel like you gotta keep trying to push further or transform or just venture into new ground. So it is what it is, and you look back on it fondly for what it is, and hope that people resonate with it. That's all you can ask for.
Well, I wish you guys only more perfection in the evolution of your artistic selves and your production company and everything that comes your way in the future. People can find you at naughtycowproductions.com as a collective. Yeah. And you have your personal websites?
There's a website also for Midnight Cannoli, midnightcannoli.com. We're kind of sharing bits from the journey, which we haven't updated in a while, and we will. But subscribe, and you'll have some fun treats.
That's a deliberate choice.
Yeah. Yeah, you see? Everything is planned.
A perfect one at that.
And then we also have personal websites, maxkatana.com and mayasham.com.
Fab. Well, it was amazing talking to you guys. My dog is making a nest out of her pillows, so I think that's our cue to wrap it up.
Thank you so much for your time today. It's been great talking to you.
It's been a pleasure, and I hope that the people that listen to this find inspiration in your art. I mean, you guys, it was a great film. What can I say? It was beautiful, and you're beautiful, and I wish you nothing but the best.
Right back at you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for talking to us.